This video is created for educational purposes only and is not financial advice. All financial actions are your own personal responsibility. Before you start, make sure you understand the risks and are ready for them. Hey, this is my life. Have you ever felt that you could have said those words too if only you had understood where to direct your efforts a little earlier? We all try, work, study, but sometimes we just lack clarity, structure, and direction. Hi, I'm Simon. For over 9 years, I've been studying how people make decisions in the world of finance, and I share my findings openly. I too once worked a 9 to 5 and dreamed that my efforts would finally start working for me and not the other way around. And you know what I realized? Real change begins not when you work more, but when you start to understand why and how you work. Today I'll talk about 5 common mistakes that prevent people from moving forward. And most importantly, I'll show in practice which approach helps build stability and confidence step by step. Let me say right away, if it seems to you that everything comes easily to me or that I'm just lucky, that's not the case. What you see is backed by years of practice, mistakes, and searching. I didn't develop my approach in a month or a year. This journey took almost 10 years. And believe me, there were many moments when I wanted to give up. But it was the failures that became the foundation upon which I learned to think calmly, make decisions, and maintain focus. So if you're familiar with the feeling of being tired of chaos, if it seems like you're trying but not seeing clarity, you're not alone. My goal is to show how you can learn to think systematically, step by step, without pressure or overload. In my trading community, via the link in the description or the pinned comment, I show the real process. We analyze approaches, discuss the logic behind decisions, talk about risks, and observe how the situation develops live. If you prefer a format where you can learn through observation and discussion rather than just listening to theory, come on in. The main idea is not to copy, but to understand how to think sequentially, not to chase perfection, but to learn resilience, not to compete with others, but to work on your own development. Just take a look at how it all works from the inside, calmly, without rush and without pressure. The link is below the video or in the pinned comment, and let's get started. Today I'm observing the data movement and want to show you how I think when I see changes on the screen. Everything you'll hear is the result of experience and observation. This is not advice or signals, but an example of how you can train your thinking to see more than just numbers. Sometimes it's more important not to know everything, but to be able to notice what others miss. Let's start calmly, step by step. The screen shows after a sharp rise, the movement seems to have slowed down. It's like when a driver slows down before a turn, not because they're braking, but because they're preparing for a new direction. Such a moment helps to understand that the sentiment of the market participants is gradually changing. When the movement stalls, it's not the end, it's a moment for observation. In such pauses, it's important not to guess, but to look more closely. They often show where new ideas are born. Now we can see that the data has approached the point where similar pauses have occurred before. The lines are starting to behave slightly differently. Deviations appear. Small changes in rhythm. It's like déjà vu. The situation is familiar, but the details are already different. If something familiar starts behaving differently, it's a signal not to act, but to reflect. In such moments, it's important to stay calm, not to try to predict, but to simply understand the context. After the upward movement, the activity slowed down and the direction changed slightly. This could mean the market participants are rethinking their decisions. These transitional states are often more important than the spikes themselves. They show how new logic is forming. There are areas where behavior repeats again and again. These are not points for actions, but points for observation. When you start seeing patterns, you stop reacting to the noise. It all comes down not to guessing, but to the ability to read behavior in the moment. Green areas have started to appear on the screen previously. Such moments coincided with the start of more confident upward movements. I've noted this moment for myself. Even after a decline, a new movement can appear, but it's better not to rush and to observe how it develops. You just saw, it doesn't all come down to chance. Steps, observation and understanding are important here. It's like learning to drive a car. Slowly at first, following instructions, then confidently by feel. That's exactly how my community works. I show the process live, explain the logic behind actions, and analyze real situations. You can just watch, or you can join in and ask questions, whatever is comfortable for you. The main goal is not to do it like someone else, but to learn to understand what stands behind every step. The link is in the description or the pinned comment. Take a look and see how it works on the inside. The line has approached the lower boundary again, but didn't go further, as if it met an invisible support. Often such moments are associated with a hold in the decline. If the price stalls at the same point and doesn't go further, it could be a hint of stabilization. It's useful to notice this. After a prolonged decline, the chart started to rise. It looked like a change of backdrop, like long cloudy weather suddenly interrupted by sunshine. The first upward movement after a long decline is always interesting. The main thing is to watch it calmly without haste. Before this, the chart was moving almost in a straight line, and then it suddenly went down. It looked like a return to the previous scenario. After a pause, a sharp movement often gives reason to wonder, has the old dynamic returned? A situation appeared on the screen again where the chart approached its ceiling boundary but couldn't go higher. It looked like hesitation in doubt. When the chart repeatedly cannot break higher, it can be an important moment, not for rushing but for reflection. The chart paused briefly and then continued its decline. The picture turned out to be familiar. Everything is developing just as it did before. If after a break the movement continues in the same direction, it's worth factoring into your further observation. After a brief pause, the chart moved again to where it was before. Everything looked as if the line was simply continuing its previous behavior. Sometimes everything continues without changes, even if it seems the momentum has slowed down. In such moments, it's especially important not to rush and not to draw conclusions prematurely. And remember, this is not recommendations. This is simply an example of how one might think while looking at a phone screen. You make any decisions yourself, and it's important to consider potential risks. Analyze calmly and cautiously. Now you have a choice. Leave everything as it is or try a format where you don't have to figure things out alone. Inside is a calm space where people learn to reason, not to guess. We watch, discuss and analyze situations together in real time without rush, without overload. You don't have to know everything. It's enough to just observe, ask questions and move at your own pace. If this kind of atmosphere resonates with you, the link is in the description and the pinned comment. Sometimes taking just one step is enough to see the process from a different angle. Bye! See you inside the community.